Morning, everyone. This is, I think, getting on for around our 12th housing breakfast session. So some of you have joined us before for various different Microsoft focused and also non-Microsoft focused breakfast sessions, which looks to explore how Crimson and suppliers and partners help housing associations with predominantly Microsoft technology. And today is no different. So today we're looking at improving void times to reinvest rental income. So how effective we leverage the Microsoft capabilities, and more specifically the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 and our own accelerators to be able to help housing associations do exactly that. Um, so just going into a little bit about what we do as Crimson. Some of you, as I say, will already know us, but typically what we do is work with the Microsoft technology as a Microsoft Gold partner to enable organizations to realize the benefits from it, whether that's helping intelligent customer experiences, so working with housing associations to manage their customer journey and using the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 to do so, across contact center, customer services, right the way through to housing operations and the repairs teams. We also focus on optimizing business processes, so using the Microsoft technology to automate your colleagues, moving through to actionable data insights, and leveraging capabilities like Power BI, as well as AI Builder and other Microsoft capabilities to allow you to do more with the data. So um, in terms of sort of who's going to be presenting from our side today, I've got myself, Ollie, and Martin, and effectively what we're going to go through is, as I say, in a second, a couple of slides just to walk you through and set the scene of how we might help organisations and housing associations improve the time to get tenants in your property. But in addition to that, actually how some of the capabilities you can leverage to report better and also optimize the processes themselves and improve and streamline workflows. So just in traditional format of the breakfast session, we are conscious that it is a little bit early. I think we started this in COVID, and therefore everyone was online all the time from about 8 onwards. But just a few things to get your brain engaged around around the webinar. So normally I do, for those of you who've been on before, a quiz, but this is more of a riddle focus. So uh, by all means, keep the answers to yourselves, and then have a think about how many pairs are being held here, and I'll reveal answers in a second. This is far too hard for me in the morning. It's a good job I know the answers. So second riddle coming up here. Any of you in your morning setting scene of creating a tea or a coffee and spot a difference of what's going on here versus what you would see? Obviously, notwithstanding the fact that it's a cartoon and you would have been in real life, but there we go. And lastly, the trickier of the three, how many people are in this picture? Okay, so how many pairs am I holding? Anyone want to use the chat facility to have a guess? Or shout out, feel free. Thanks, Emily. Two. The answer, unfortunately, is 0 because the question is how many pairs, and there are PAIRS. And because he's holding all four, there isn't a pair that he is holding, is supposedly the answer. If he was holding two in one hand, then it said that there would be a pair, but because he's holding all four in two hands, and it's looking for pairs PAIRS, IRS, there are no pairs. So there you go. This sort of stuff gets me mad, because then you end up getting into a debate. The kettle, I don't know if anybody got that, but the min and max were the wrong way round. So I think when I looked at it first, I was like, well, you know, where's the button, or the kettle's not plugged in? But apparently it's because the min and the max were the wrong way round. And did anybody get how many people were in that picture? Hazard a guess? This one's even more frustrating. So there were 6 apparently in total, because the people in the pictures don't count because they're not real people, they're pictures. And for those of you that thought it was 5, which is the most common answer, thanks Sally, apparently it's 6, because on the right hand side there is a real person who is behind the painting. I think very unfair, that one is. Very harsh. But anyway, there we go. A bit of stupid fun just to start the session off, and now getting into the real capability. And with that, Ollie, I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, that last one got me, to be honest. I didn't understand the lady in the picture was a real person. There you go. Yeah, thanks, guys. Today, really, we're talking about the voids process. And effectively trying to streamline that process as much as we can. Now, really, you know, when we're sort of talking to our current customers and clients, a lot of the goals that come out of the NTQ void type processes are that they've got a number of goals which they're trying to achieve, and some pain points to try and resolve. And the goals really are around trying to reduce the average void work costs. So the costs of those voids, and that might be down to the specifications of inspection, getting the right people to the right properties, and being able to sort of classify them correctly. The other one is reducing the average void turnaround time. That's massive, because obviously, the more a property is vacant, the less amount of rental value can be accumulated on that property, as well as the utility bills and the maintenance of it generally. So turnaround times is absolutely critical from a costing perspective, but also from a reporting perspective. You don't want too many voids at the same time within your stock. And then obviously, the reducing the average rental loss per unit. Obviously, that's related to that void turnaround time. So the issues really that mainly come out of that are the sort of the low customer satisfaction may lead to higher NTQs from your tenant's perspective. We're not going to be touching on too much around customer satisfaction specifically in here, but that's generally, it could be anything from the rental support that they get, the repairs journey. Everything that we see in this timeline here is all around customer satisfaction. And how we can better serve our customers. So obviously reducing that's massive, so it can't be ignored. And that's certainly one of the biggest issues that is directly affecting the void, or certainly the NTQ side of things. People just want to leave the property because they're not happy with the service or the property itself. The other one is around the other real big issues are trying to get digital and trying to move away from maybe a linear process that is potentially paper-based, but it has certain stages and you have to do one thing after the other. The NTQ is submitted, somebody needs to review that, it's confirmed, it's passed over to somebody else, then people are waiting for keys to be returned, then inspections happens, and it's quite a drawn out process. What we're trying to do here is look at that process and see if is there anything that we can speed up using the technologies that we have. And then the other issue is the contractor communication. So a number of housing associations do rely on contractors, whether it be for just major works or major and minor works, in terms of that void element. So we would be looking at trying to increase the communication level and the speed and effectiveness of actually getting information to these contractors, but also receiving the information potentially when the jobs have been completed and they can and the property is ready for the letting cycle again. So again, trying to speed up that journey to get these properties back on the market as such. So what I'm going to try and go through today is a couple of concepts on using our housing accelerator, and taking you through explaining basically the NTQ process, whether that be through the portal or through omni-channel, so a web chat or a phone call or face-to-face. And we're going to start with the presumption that somebody is issued a notice to quit, so it's a tenancy-led NTQ. And then we're going to step through and look at the process and what we can do from a technology perspective using our housing accelerator on Dynamics 365, and taking you through the void management process, which is a process bar on the tenancy and the property records, and jumping into an inspection app. Running through a very simple scenario around creating an inspection, and looking at those inspections and identifying something wrong with the property, and then creating enough information for a job to be created behind the scenes, for that to be then scheduled with a contractor, the contractor then logging onto a contractor portal, completing the work, and then seeing the effects of all of these elements within Dynamics as the lettings officer or as the housing officer, and seeing the progression of this void process running through the property. So that's really what we're going to go through today, and I will start by giving a bit of a quick demonstration of the accelerator and some of the core areas. So apologies for the loyal guys that have been on this. I can't believe, Jordan, that's been 12. That's amazing. You will find some of this quite similar, because we are obviously looking through the lettings process, and it's the tail end of the process that we're going to concentrate on. So hopefully for the guys that have seen this before, it should be quite familiar, but I will explain the major parts and the major concepts of Dynamics and our accelerator. Okay, so I'll take control of the screen. Okay, just a quick nod from George. Can you see the screen? Okay, good stuff. So for those of you who haven't seen this before, this is Dynamics 365. And where we are at the moment, we're in a Crimson Housing Accelerator. This is based on Power Apps and Dynamics 365. So we have a collection of applications that we've built over the years within the housing association vertical, and I'm actually using the Crimson Housing Association app. We'll go on a little bit later on to the Housing Visit app to show you the inspections route. We're also going to be jumping on to, if I can find it, the subcontractor portal as well. So all of these are applications that are built on top of Power Apps and Dynamics 365. And I'll just be navigating directly to one of my example tenancies that has submitted an NTQ. Now, I'll just very quickly show, this is a typical example of a model-driven app. The navigation is on the left-hand side, which sort of shows you some of the areas. I'm currently in lettings at the moment, but there is a service area as well that shows more information or more elements that specifically to do with the service side of things. So I'm in tenancies, and I've got a certain tenancy which is 001008. And this is for the Unit 2 Railings Court. Now, as you can see on this top business process bar, this application to tenancy is a process that starts right at the beginning. When a property is being let, there's an application that runs through, and there's some certain stages that run through this. Now, within the accelerator, usually the vast majority of our processes, or the vast majority of our tenancies, are going to be at this active tenancy stage where they are actively a tenant, everything's running fine, and things are going ahead. Now, what happens at the point of notice given is that through either, this one is a portal request, but through the portal, email, phone, the tenant has issued an NTQ. Now that comes through here and updates this stage to notice given, which is then having a look at all of the specific areas here. So there's a reason for a notice reason, and when the NTQ was given, and then it will calculate the tenancy end date that relates to those rules depending upon what type of tenancy type. So this one is a regulated tenancy. So what you can see here is also already on the tenancy, there's the notice, the status reason is changed to notice given. And what we actually need to do is do some pre-termination checks, which would be around double checking whether they have any rent arrears. I won't step into too much of the tenancy checking element of this. I'm going to try and fast forward on to more of the actual voids process, but just showing you that there are some checks and some ways to actually capture that those things have been completed within the tenancy process. And effectively what we're trying to get to is to the tenancy terminated. Now, because, as we said, what we're trying to do is get away from that serial type, just one long sort of stream of work that's going to happen. As the lettings officer or the housing officer is going through the pre-termination checks and approving those the termination status, what's going to happen behind the scenes is we know that the NTQ has come in and we need to start the pre-voids inspections and the voids inspections. So because we have this process available here running through the tenancy, we also have on the unit another process that allows us to show the voids process within a property. So at the moment, we're waiting for the keys to be returned. If there's a key safe, we can have those notified as well. But what we can do is we can work out whether this property will need to go to be relet or it needs to be sold. And if it's selling, then there's a sort of disposal process that might happen. But for ease, we're actually going to have a look at actually reletting this. And what we need to actually do is go through a property inspection. So we need to do a void inspection. The good thing is all of this can be automated. So at the point of NTQ, and whether that's at the point of the NTQs and the status change of the lettings record, the tenancy record, or if it's once that tenancy sort of notice to quit has been approved, then a trigger can happen that actually creates and schedules a property inspection for somebody to go out and visit that property. So this is where I'm going to navigate to one of our areas, which is the housing visit app. Now, I have demonstrated some of this before, doing a visit, so a housing visit when they're currently in their tenancy. What I'm going to show you today is a void inspection. So as we say here, we've got the property inspection isn't complete, but what we have done is scheduled that inspection. So if I jump on as David Lloyd, my property voids expert, I'm going to have a look at my appointments, and I can see that there's a new void inspection that comes at 10 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and have a look at that one. So if I open that, what you'll see is that the inspection form comes up with some general details. So it's again 2 Railings Court, which is our property that we're looking at. And some of these areas, it's again a sort of a click to go through to these different areas and specify sort of like a checklist of exactly what needs to be checked. At the moment, you can navigate to bedrooms, reception rooms, kitchens and bathrooms, and this graphic can be changed and tweaked depending upon the type of void inspections that you guys want to be covering. So what I'm going to click on, just as an example, is I'm going to click through to kitchen. And what you can see is a very straightforward kitchen checklist for the inspector to go through. And usually it's just checking, you know, are the sinks okay? Is the taps and plumbing's okay in the kitchen? Are the waste pipes okay? Do the basements look good? Now, upon inspecting the worktop, there is some actions required. So if we click on actions required, it's going to ask us to put some more information in about that specific action. What's going to happen is we'll put in this information, and behind the scenes, this is going to go ahead and create a job for us to repair. So I'm just going to say it's a worktop repair, and the broken and it's water damage and needs repairing. So you can add some details in here. What we also want to do is potentially add or take a picture of the broken worktop. Now this will then be imported into the application, ready for the contractor to know and view and inspect the app. What we're also looking in here is actually trying to link as much as we can to the schedule of rates for repairs, so that we can have greater clarity on exactly what the job might be. Now, if looking at this, we can see that you know, we've got our two choices of worktop schedule of rates. One would be a complete renew, so we'd actually renew the workshop, or one is repair. Now, looking at the damage here, you know, we believe we can just go ahead and do the repair. So car 079, which is the kitchen unit, renew and refix the kitchen workshop is you know, schedule rates back 20 quid rather than 149 pounds for a complete renewal of the kitchen workshop. So we're trying to save and cut down, well, not save, just be more specific around these repairs and the things that have to happen directly at the inspection. Now, it's not to say that these don't have to be completed, and these can be changed at the point in which somebody would come in to do the repair. Maybe there's some more underlying damage. Maybe it was the water damage had leaked through, and therefore we would need to do a renewal. But what we're trying to do is get to that repair side as quickly as we can and as efficiently as we can, so that you know, we're trying to save those costs. So once we've you know, we've gone ahead and done that, all the others are just for ease. I'm just going to quickly just say that these are all good, and they have been that's the only thing that we need to capture. It's going to go back to the general details, then you can go into the other rooms. I won't go into absolutely everything from an inspection, but the general concept is that it would be, you know, creating these a whole load of lists of jobs that come off this inspection, and that would be loaded into Dynamics. So if I just save and complete that record, that's me done for the inspection app. What I can now go ahead and do is go back to the unit, and if I just refresh that, what you'll see is that it's moved on from property inspection, and the property was inspected, was completed, and that was on a specific date and time. It's also moved us on to job creations. So a job has been created, and the created date of today. So if we have a look, what we can see is the evidence of that inspection and the job being created behind the scenes. So as a housing officer, I can still go ahead and view and see this information. So as you can see, David Lloyd created this inspection, and what you can see on here is the related work orders. So if I see that related work order, that actually gets me that left worktop renewal. So we wanted to do that scheduling in from that inspection. So now that we actually have a work order that has been created off the back of the inspection, we now need to go and get that scheduled in. Now this is where we use one of our other modules within the Dynamics 365 suite called Field Services. And within Field Services, I will very quickly touch on there's a lot more detail that happens on a work order, and there's some other things around price lists and additional elements and incident types that are placed in. Again, we've got a business process bar specifically for this work order, which will do the work order creation, and then we're trying to schedule that. I won't touch on too much around the scheduling side of field services because we'll be here all day, but effectively I need to book that out and book that to my contractor to get that fixed up. So I've got my contractor here. I can go ahead and book that into the schedule. And once that has been done, I can then, the contractor would then receive a notification and would be able to log into the contractor portal. So that's the next stage of our journey. So just to summarize, we've gone from the NTQ, picking up that notice to quit. We've initiated the inspection. We've got the housing or the housing officer busy working through the tenancy termination. We've had our inspector go in, do a property inspection and find that a job is needed to be created, automatically created the job, and then our field service agent or our scheduler has then gone and found the right contractor and scheduled that work in. Now we can then go as the contractor and log on to the subcontractor portal. So for all of these scenarios, I'm showing it as a browser form, but these are all available on the mobile side of things. So it wouldn't matter if you are either from the portal side on a browser or actually through the mobile side. What I'll just quickly do is do this through the mobile. And as you can see, you can go ahead and sign in. Now, this is taking me straight to my profile, which we can update and change. But what I want to do is, as a contractor, I want to go have a look at my job list. Now, as I can see, I've got a couple of jobs, but the one that we went ahead and had a look at or created was 007. So I can go ahead and see those details. And as you can see, it's the worktop broken, water damage, needs repair. It's been approved, and I can see all of the information I need to do to go ahead and do that, as well as the address information and the actual the image of the broken worktop is there, ready for me to actually have a look at. So what I can go ahead and do, and I won't do it on this phone just because you guys, it's just easier if I show you on the main form. If we just go and quickly find that job again. Yeah. Just grab that job from here. What I can now do is I can go ahead, disappear, go ahead and actually complete that job. And what I can do is then create a job completion evidence. So fixed. Fixed worktop and have a look at just make it to that. If I can go ahead and submit that, you can just simply submit and complete the evidence, or you can also add a note to that to say, actually, well, just so that you guys can see that I've done a good job, I'm going to go ahead and just add in my evidence and complete job. So there you go. That's the nicely new completed repaired worktop, all ready and done. So the good thing about this would be that this was all stored within Dynamics 365, but as a subcontractor, I have my own portal that I can go and communicate with the housing associations without any emails or without any phone calls or without any missed information. It's all readily available for everybody to go ahead and complete. This obviously going to save a lot of time in what you're doing, and hopefully then, because all of these jobs have been completed quicker, then the void process, the amount of time that that we have in the void is going to be a lot less. So the final thing to do is then go and have a look back onto, if we go back to Railings Core, what you can see now is it's moved on from job creation, and we've actually completed that job. And what we want to be doing now is having a double check within the Dynamics 365, checking whether this information is correct, double checking that the inspection has been completed correctly, and all of this information is readily available to have a look at. If we go to the next stage, then the void process is completed, and as you can see now, Railings Core is now straight back onto the standard business process flow, and it's available to let, and we can get going. So we've kind of gone through as quickly as we can through the voids process, and at the same time, obviously allowing the housing officers to terminate the tenancy correctly. But these things can then start working in parallel. So, and then the final thing to really talk through is around metrics on this, because we have the tenancy stored in the same place as the location, we have the inspection stored in those elements, and we can understand the void times of these units. We can do quite a bit of metrics, which I'll just pass you over to my colleague Martin, who is just going to give you a bit of a demonstration on some scorecard functionality that, using this information, using this data, can be really, really valuable.
Thanks, Ollie. So yeah, so just to kind of pick up on that point about the scorecard. So this is Power BI, and the scorecard functionality is a module within Power BI. So you can see here I've just created a very simple scorecard with 2 metrics against it, and it's very, very easy to do. So if I go and look at one of these, so you can see here, for example, our percentage properties of void by month. What I've done here is I've put in a target of 8%, and right now the current value is 8%. So we're actually on track with that. However, if we look at the second metric around the costs, our target is to reduce our void cost to £50,000 per month, and at the moment we're sitting at 75. So we're not on target, but the trend is showing that it is going down. So month on month, that's going down by 6.25%. And you can see that our target, we're aiming to achieve our targets by the 31st of October on these. Now, if I go in and just edit one of these, what you can see is this is how easy it is to actually set up. So what you can do is you can actually put in the name for your metric. The owner gets put in automatically. You've got your current value and your final target value, and you can see we can edit that. And then what you've got here is you've got the ability to connect to external data. So that would be connecting to, say, another Power BI report. So if you had a Power BI report built on your void data, then you could connect your metric to that Power BI report so that you could then pull that data in automatically. And then at the end here, you've got your start and end date. So that's your start and end range for this particular metric. Just going to cancel out of there for a second. And if I go into the notes area for this metric, then you can see that it actually gives me a little bit more detail. I've got some history up here. These are my status rules. So these are my rules around the metric. But what I did for the purpose of this demo was I just put in checking values. So that was just a way to make it a bit easier for the demo. Obviously, these values would typically be coming live from a report or another data source that you've got. for the scorecard report, but I just cheated and put in some check-in values manually for that purpose. So that is the scorecard functionality. Very easy to set up once you've got your Power BI reports built, or you've got your data source pre-configured. So really useful insight into the state of play with regard to voids. So I think at that point, I'm handing back to Jordan.
Thanks, Martin. So, and thanks, Ollie, for the initial run through. So, just to, I suppose, by way of summary of some of the benefits that are gained as part of some of the capabilities that we've shown there, um, you know, clearly there's capability within the Dynamics and Power Platform interface to streamline workflow. We've got the ability to create very agile and nimble mobile applications that work both on and offline to carry out the inspections process and to make sure that, as well as having the workflow process on Dynamics, and as Ollie showed there on screen, users can work in the field and can access and update information very easily in an intuitive tablet or mobile interface. And lastly, following through to Martin's piece, just a very brief example of some of the voids reporting that you can do and how Power BI can be used as an extensive tool to go deep into the data. And a few points up here, just to sort of summarize some of the capabilities that you've seen and the benefits that we feel, having worked with clients, this solution gives. But Ollie, I don't know if there's any final word that you wanted to give on that before I talk about next steps, how the users will get involved, and then I'll stage it to the floor to ask any questions.
Yeah, sure. I guess just the final element of this is just to also sort of evangelate on the Canvas app. So that was the inspection side that I showed today. This stuff is really quite easy to configure. So if you if that inspection app doesn't quite look right, or doesn't follow the right checklist that you guys would run through your voids, it's super configurable and really easy to get the right inspection. I didn't show the inspection app on the phone, but again, these things are kind of like quite very responsive in terms of the UI. So it does actually look really quite smart on the phone as well, and obviously tablet ready as well. So it really is making sure that anybody that is located anywhere has the ability to connect to this data, use the functionality, and get that information back to and be able to share it with everyone else, whether that be internal or external. So it's absolutely critical that data is taken and used. So yeah, that's pretty much the final thing from me. Thanks, George.
Perfect, thanks, Al. And yeah, I think the only other last thing I wanted to add on that is again, the capabilities that you've got within Dynamics 365 in the Power Platform now to bring in third-party stakeholders, like you showed with subcontractors. We're talking about making sure that no interactions missed. In one central system, not only have we got a single view of the customer for the different departments and different moving parts that we are as a housing association, but in addition to that, we've got a single view in the same place and in the same database of actually third parties such as subcontractors that we're engaging with. And albeit you can create different views and different branding on the portals, the point is that everything is all in one place, which means that we've got the data, we can automate those processes because we've got the data, and we can do intelligent things like advanced reporting and even stuff that we haven't shown today, such as AI analysis on trends and things that might be happening. Some of the great stuff that we've also looked at with other customers around voids has been, one thing, having the capability to do what we've just shown, but also now with AI Builder, looking at trends and patterns of predictive forecasting as to where are these things happening. Is there dependencies on location? Is it types of tenant? Is it duration of tenant? Um, you know, so some intelligent stuff we can do there, which if we can use it to be preventative, to stop voids happening before they happen, all the better for it. So how would anybody get involved with us, or sort of as a next steps? The first thing that's really important to note is that Microsoft do offer funding to get involved in different aspects of the Microsoft technology. So one of the things that we've done with other housing associations like yourselves who are on the call is actually get some funding to deploy as a proof of concept the housing inspection app and Voids app that Ollie's built, just to give you guys it as a playpen and install and set up and trial it with a number of users who are out in the field. So that's something we can do very quickly. It can give you it as an example to work on. In addition to that, if you wanted to go into more of the detail with us around voids and lettings, we offer workshops that are comprehensive around that. That can actually go into those details and work with you to understand a little bit more about your processes and how you might do that process, and integrate it into your existing housing management system or replace that process entirely. And then lastly, the art of the possible sessions, which are around, not just this specific area. Some of you that have been on our sessions before know that we do a lot of other areas and use Dynamics to help organizations either part replace or totally replace their housing management solutions with Dynamics and Power Platform. So if you want to learn about more about other areas and how this links, then of course we can help you with that. So if anybody's interested in any of those, please do drop us a message. What I wanted to do just before we close is open the floor to any questions. Feel free to ask any at all in this session. There was one that I had for Ollie. Just I suppose that in going through that demonstration was, Ollie, you mentioned about sort of some of the Power Apps capabilities is easy to configure. In your opinion, how easy is it, and in your experience, how easy is it and what's required? We see a lot of housing associations wanting to upskill and help their teams grow. How easy is it for us to sort of, as an organization, help with not just deliver that app as an example, but help upskill housing association IT teams and business analysts and business change managers to actually start to do stuff with the tech?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jord. I think that there's a number of things that Crimson do to sort of help that journey. I guess we're massive advocates of sort of self-sufficiency in a certain aspect. We're really good in terms of expanding the team and getting large, complex or implementations of Dynamics 365 into the business. But what we really do like to advocate is the use of this low-code, no-code technology, and upskilling and working through what businesses need to do to kind of become self-sufficient. We've got a set of services around called Paragon, which allow us to understand sort of your vision and your target operating model for the Power Platform and Dynamics 365, and work through people, processes, and the technology involved to actually give you guys that steerage into how you guys can become self-sufficient and what you want to become self-sufficient in. I mean, there's so many parts to this. Yes, we're within Crimson, we're specialists in all of these areas. But as a customer, as a client, you may want to do a lot of reporting or some analytics, and we can give you the guidance and training to upskill your internal team to do that, or as application developers. So be able to create these quick applications to be able to improve the business performance. So there's a number of things that we can offer, and that we really do advocate, and it becomes a really great partnership where actually those big complex projects where you do need the skill sets of Crimson, we jump in and help out. But then building a center of excellence for your clients is absolutely perfect, and then you can go ahead as a client and start making incremental changes and being resilient to change in the business and what's happening. So a combination of things that we can offer to help out with that.
Thanks, Ollie. really good answer. Yeah, and I think some of the power organ services and workshops that I've seen you and some of the consultancy team deliver around knowledge transfer and upskilling has allowed housing associations to get greater clarity on, what skills do they need, how would they go about actually, upskilling, the training itself, and then making sure that they've got best practice processes to ensure governance through the configuration, etc., has been really useful. Um, just a couple of other questions before we finish from myself, just I suppose for the listeners here. Um, First question is, there's always a view that Dynamics or Power Platform might have to replace the total housing management system. So I just wanted to get a view from you specifically with this voids and applications process. How easy is it to take something like this um, and integrate with an existing housing management system? Is part one. And part two would be, um, how long would something like this take to get an applications and voids and lettings process up as a minimum viable product, as a proof of concept? How long would it take in a rough indicative timescale potentially? And I know it's a very broad question, but just to give sort of people on the call an idea of A, could it integrate with our existing housing management system, and B, how long could it take to get a prototype off the ground of this type area?
No, absolutely. So I think the the combination of things, and as you said, there's a lot of people in looking to completely redo their housing the housing management system. I think being able to sort of break down these areas into very specific areas. If you take void management is a really good example, or even smaller than that. So if you look at just the inspections application, I think it can be a way into the platform and a way into Dynamics 365 as your low-code no-code technology. And I think there's a lot of things that you can do in bite-sized chunks. Spinning up an inspections application and having that to replace maybe paper forms or actually another part of a sort of an old legacy system, I think would be relatively straightforward. There's always a requirements gathering part where we make sure that we can dot the I's and cross the T in terms of what's needed. But the creation of these applications is not difficult, and embedding these into the business is one of the things that it can be a little bit of a challenge if the right people aren't sort of involved. But it can be as quick as a couple of weeks to 2 or 3 months to get a small part of your management system within Dynamics or within the Power Platform, and then start incrementally rolling and stretching those out. We do see a lot of people going for that approach because the big bang approach of just replacing the housing management systems in its entirety is a very big ask and quite a chunky piece of program of work. I think the way that the Power Platform has been built and the way that Microsoft like it to be used is in that sort of iterative agile approach where you're using success by design and human-centered design to actually come up with the right processes and implement those correctly with the capabilities of integration. So that there's a lot of integration that can happen because the platform itself is an open API, and it has a lot of connections. So through Power Automate and the Power Platform connections, you can make connections to all sorts of areas and data sources. So I think because of that flexibility, it can be a lot easier to tackle these in bite-sized chunks.
Perfect. Thank you, Ollie. I appreciate that. So just a final word then from us. So thank you for everyone for joining the session this morning. And thanks, Ollie and Martin, for just taking us through the capabilities. If you've got any needs to share this session with your colleagues, I know we'll be sending an email out after this with the link to the YouTube video. So if anybody needs to, wants to go over it and watch again. But as I say, if anybody wants to explore how Microsoft could potentially provide some funding for something like this, if anybody would like us to drop the Power App capabilities that we showed today into some of their environments as a proof of concept, let me know. And for those of you that have been on the event before, thank you for coming again. Those of you that is that for your first time, you can scan this QR code and follow us on our Crimson community on LinkedIn for housing associations, where we'll post information about the latest events. We typically run these every 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, there'll be one coming up in that time frame in the future. And lastly, as always, we look to improve these sessions and to give you some to basically give you sessions on some of the topics you might want. So if you know there's any sort of colleagues or focuses within your housing association at the moment, we ran one last time around sustainability because we know Microsoft have just released some capabilities there, but secondly, it's obviously a massive topic in housing associations at the moment. So if there's any topical things that you think you'd like us to show or talk about, then do let us know. But if there's no more questions for us at that point, I'll say thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. And yeah, look forward to seeing you hopefully on some of the future events that we run. Have a great day, guys. Take care. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.
guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye now.